All right, guys, welcome to Warriors Podcast. Dave Whichard, president of FFL Velocity. Today I've got a good friend, business partner, really just like family, and Todd Hausberger. And he is a Hall of Fame producer, uh, vice president plus in our business as we do that. But I mean, again, protected over 400 families last year. This year, well over 200 families, and still rolling. So the reason I asked Todd to come on today, Todd, just tell us a little bit about your background. Whatever you want to share for those that don't know who you are.
Okay.
But he's gone through a transition in his life, and so now he's doing some, virtual. But I do want to get into that, and we're going to talk about what he did last year to hit Hall of Fame, but then also what he's doing this year to hit Hall of Fame, which looks like still going to do that. But anyway, just anything we want to share. But we're going to get into some details of some of the transitions he made, some of the failures, some of the successes, and try to help you with some of those things. So, Todd, if you want, just share a little bit from your heart. Tell us a little bit about your background so people know who you are.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure, my friend. I've been in the industry going on 20 years now, and then spent the first 17 of those years in the supplemental health industry. So that's more like cancer policies, accident policies, hospital policies, that type of stuff. Not so much on the life insurance end of things. And then I got 3 kiddos. I got a 22-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 4-year-old, 2 girls and a boy. Born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. Went to Arizona State, so spent 13 years out in Phoenix. And then now live in Nashville, Tennessee. So we've been here for 13 years as well. So
that's awesome, man. Well, I know the kids are, obviously a big part of your life and things like that. I see you, getting to go to soccer games with them and getting into sports and stuff. So that's a fun time for sure. And that's exciting. So what have you learned, been here about 2 years, something like that, with Family First Life.
Yeah.
And what are some of the differences that you love? Obviously, there's pitfalls. There's things that, as an agency owner, that we deal with that maybe we didn't deal with other companies, but at the same time, we really own our business. What are some things that you really like about Family First Life?
Well, there's a pretty long list of things that I like about Family First Life, especially compared to where I came from. I mean, for selling. I mean, they were obviously different types of policies because they were life insurance policies instead of like cancer policies and stuff. But still, I mean, if you sell an $80 cancer policy or if you sell an $80 life insurance policy and you get paid twice as much, I mean, that's a no-brainer when it comes to the math of that, right? But then also, what's great about this industry and not just Family First Life, and 2 out of 3 men get cancer, 1 out of 3 women get cancer, but it's not a 100% chance that everybody's going to get cancer. So that's also a big difference when it comes to life insurance, and more people know about life insurance than they do about cancer plans. So there's less on the educational side for that aspect of it. But then also, Dave, since you were with that company for about 20 years, we don't have to knock on doors like we did over there. We work off of leads and stuff. So it definitely makes it a lot easier where people are actually reaching out to us. It's almost like, if you worked at maybe a car dealership where you've got people coming in to see you. It's relatively, similar in this deal where people are reaching out to you for help and you're just going to serve them. Whereas before we were 100% cold, knocking on residential doors and business doors, trying to, there's no really other way to put it, but try to talk them into getting a policy, But we believed in it, of course, and we believed in the policies, and we still do, right? But it's just a different deal, working off of leads compared to cold calling and knocking on doors.
Hey, let me ask you this. So one of the things I think when people watch this, sometimes it's like, well, what is a life insurance? What is it even about, right? I know we're doing that, right? But one of the things that scared me about it, okay, and one of the reasons I never did it before, and I wanted your reflection on this, is you probably felt the same way. It's like, hey, somebody's got to go out, they got to do parameds, they got to take their blood, all this, and I got to wait 30 days, 2 months, whatever, to get paid. And I wasn't interested in that. That's how my brain works. It's like, hey, let's do the work, let's get paid, if you built a house, you want to get paid, right? So my point is, but when I found out, I remember talking to Andrew, and I'll never forget the trigger that hit me. He said, simplified issue. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what does that even mean? And then he told me, I was like really excited that I could get paid in some cases 24 to 48 hours. And even a carrier, it might take even a few days past that. It's still a lot faster than I ever thought. What is your reflection on that, looking back on it and what you've learned?
Yeah, I mean that's I think that's amazing piece of the puzzle as well. Oh, and then also, and I'll circle back to answer that. One last thing I forgot about, the difference between here and a lot of other places that you could work, and the marketing agreement that they had signed was filled with so many loopholes and so much gray area that they could literally take that money away from you at any point in time because you didn't truly own it, and that's exactly what they did with me. They took away that residual income from me. Whereas here, you truly own it because you're not getting paid by FFL. You're actually getting paid directly from the carriers. And where we came from, we were getting paid from, the company that we were with, that practice company and stuff. But yeah, on the simplified issue things, I mean, just looking back, I mean, so like, because I've been in the industry going 20 years, and if I had started in life insurance 20 years ago, a lot more of the business would have been fully medically underwritten, and I've written, a handful, well, more than a handful of fully medically underwritten policies. Not too many, because I try to stay clear of them because they're such a pain in the butt. But I mean, I've had some policies take anywhere between, on the low end a month, on the high end 6 months to get issued and to get somebody coverage. But then also they've found, like with one of my clients, their A1C levels were high, not to the point of where they had diabetes, but it was just high, or their blood pressure was a little high. So where they came back and they wanted to charge them an extra $100, for the coverage. So a simplified issue streamlines the whole process where, and literally, like you were saying, I mean, not only can you get paid in 24 to 48 hours, but you can literally get somebody with some of our carriers covered that day. As soon as you push the submit button, they get coverage. If they get approved, of course. They have to get approved. But it's just, that's revolutionary compared to what the industry used to be like, where they didn't have e-apps back in the past. Everything was paper applications. You'd have to call in the prescriptions and different medical conditions to each one of the carriers. So, I mean, even when it was simplified issue, 20 years ago, it could still possibly take, upwards of a week or two. So the industry is dramatically changed on both ends for us and then also for the client as well. So it's total game changer for sure.
Do you believe that anybody can come here and with the right teaching, the right guidance and training, if they're teachable and they're coachable, willing to work hard, can make not only, I mean, we're not just talking about, but, when you talk about six figures, I could say that, right? They can make an income that maybe they're not used to making, and even then some, in your case, 400 families a year if they're willing to put the work in.
Yeah. And I was at the top of my game with that other company in that industry. Probably top 1%, I would say. Well, I mean, gosh, I think, top 15 of all time at the other company. So to be able to come in year one and take the business model that we have here, and I mean, with where we came from, it was like pouring gas on the fire. Because with everything that I've already mentioned to you, I mean, the business model, it's built for success. Now, can anybody do it? No, not anybody can do it, because not anybody has the drive and the ambition that a lot of us do. But if you do have that drive, if you have that ambition, then yes, anybody can do it if you have those key things in place. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you have to look in the mirror. Your success and your failure is going to be up to you. It's not going to be up to any of the training that we provide, which we provide hundreds of thousands of hours of training. It's not going to be up to the numerous conference calls that you can get on to take you to the next level. It's not going to be up to me personally, that's going to guarantee your success or your failure. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to you. But we have all those things in place to help kind of speed up that process and to get them over that learning curve sooner than later. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to them.
And it's funny as I'm sitting here talking to you, I remember the last time, or one of the times, we've done a couple of these over the couple of years, but just one of these conversations, we were able to meet a guy who's really changed all our lives, and that's Melvin. And as I sit here and reflect on it, he's like a son to me now. It's like I get to see him more than you do because he's just down the road. But I love that guy, and so I'm grateful. So if there's one person out there watching this right now, hey, I want to work with Todd, again, reach out. You just never know how it can change your life. But Melvin's protecting. He protects, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 families a week, every single week. And he runs another business. And he's, 23 years old. So
Yeah,
he's super inspiring a lot of people, for sure.
totally. Yeah,
Um, yeah, so let's do this real quick. Let's dive into a couple things that maybe you say that could help somebody. So somebody's brand new, and let's talk about infield, because you were in the field. Now you're doing some virtual, but we've talked about some of the struggles there. So total transparency with those, and understanding when you come here. And I think Todd and I would both believe that in the field's a way to learn, right?
Oh, for sure.
Transition to the other way, it's a little bit harder. But could you talk about maybe some basic things of structure that you did that helped you hit Hall of Fame? Like when you dial, how the appointments look, that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I mean, I was in field for 19 out of the 20 years, right? So I've just gone, telesales here in the past 3 months, and there's definitely a big difference between the two. Um, but when I hit Hall of Fame last year, over 400 families protected, the structure that I had, and I'll talk about this because I think a lot of new agents miss this piece of it because they think you've got all this past experience that you're just going to come over here and you're going to start hitting home runs, and that wasn't the case, because I'd never worked off of leads, I'd never set appointments, never really sold life insurance before, so it was a totally different ball game. So what I did, like on Sundays for my first 3 months, I mean, I would dial for 3 to 5 hours every Sunday, to kind of get that little edge, slight edge on other folks, but also to get a little slight edge on myself to kind of have some victories for me when I came into the office on Monday. And then I would dial all day Monday, however long that took to set up, 16 plus appointments on Tuesday and Wednesday, which were in the field. So, whether it took 8 hours or 12 hours, which was pretty typical when I first started because I was just so bad on the phones, so bad at calling leads and setting appointments. But then also on Thursdays, same deal. That was also an office day as well. Spend however long it took to set 16 appointments for Friday and Saturday. So whether that was 8 hours or 12 hours, and that's exactly what I did. And then just start all over again on Sunday. So I mean, I wanted to have a fast start, and I wanted to hit big numbers straight out the gates. I mean, I had to. I was the only one working, at the time. So, had 3 kids to support, so I didn't have an option of not coming out of the gate strong. But yeah, I think that's where a lot of new agents miss it. Is they try to look for the shortcuts and they don't put the time and effort in. But then also they don't see everything that I did to be able to have quick success out the gates, and the time and the effort that I put in working. I mean, literally 7 days a week. Not full days, 7 days a week, but still putting in work 7 days a week for my first, 3 months or so.
Yeah, and what Todd's saying is like he was either on the phone, maybe talking to an agent in front of a client, and on a weekend, let's just say he was either maybe some Saturdays he was running business, or a Sunday afternoon he was taking a call from an agent. That's what I'm saying. We get to a place where your agency's growing, so the work looks a whole lot different than maybe some of you are looking like you're not building houses or anything. It's not physical, it's all mental, really. It's just being there and encouraging people, things like that. What are some things that you said on the phone, like out of the gates, like because I know you and I didn't overthink it because it's just how we're built, but what are some basic things that you learned on the phone to say, not say, that could help somebody who's just kind of watching this wants to get started, and, anything that you would give, any tips?
The big thing that people coming from, whether having experience on the phone or just having sales experience, I think the big thing that kind of took me, well, 2 big things that took me back. One was being monotone, not being salesy. Hey, Dave, how you doing? None of that, but being more like monotone and all business, but not the peaks and valleys when you're calling the leads. But then also something that I think would be different for a lot of us is just the dial structure. I would do the 3 rounds. I would call all my new leads one time through. That was round 1. And then round 2, I would call them 3 times in a row, which was definitely new for me. I was like, wait, I call them 3 times in a row, and that kind of weird and that kind of strange, because I was looking at it from my standpoint. Like, I wouldn't want somebody calling me 3 times in a row. But we have to imagine, especially if we're calling on final expense clients, I mean, these are folks that are middle class and lower middle class, and these are folks that have been making the wrong, not always, but most of them have been making the wrong decisions in their life a lot, some of them consistently over and over throughout their entire life, hence why they don't have anything in place when they're 60, 70, 80 years old to take care of their final expenses, like most people should, already have
Crazy.
something like that in place. So two sides to that. One is, I mean, these people are filling out, everything that they can online, mailing everything that they can back in. So, I mean, they're getting blown up. So by calling them that second round 3 times in a row with different ring variations, kind of sets you apart from those telemarketers that are out there. So that's round two. And then round three is, again, calling them 3 times in a row. And then on that seventh time that you call them, so that third time that you're calling them on the third round, that's when I would leave a voicemail and send a text message and stuff after I'd called them 7 times throughout the day and stuff. So it's just different. But I mean, I'm not one to overcomplicate it. People. I don't come up with new systems. I don't create systems. I take systems that are already in place and people are having success with, and I make it my own. So that's always
good.
my you know.
Yeah, and Todd's one of those guys who'll ask questions. He'll ask more questions than maybe I would ask. But once he gets that, he's on. Like I'm just being honest. In our business, one of the few people in our business that literally has, took that, ran to Hall of Fame, poured back in the business, and agents have done that and continues to do that. So it's a great team to be on for sure. I appreciate that too, Todd. It means a lot. Just
Of course,
following
no,
leaders
thank
and
you,
just
man.
trying to help people as best can. But we're also changing the game and moving some things and getting better. And there's always things that we just get better at, right? So anyway, going back to that, the other thing I want to talk about is mindset. And I know you did 74 hard. We both done that. We're actually, but I'm gonna wait on you to do phase two. Anyway, we're doing that. Reading. These are big parts of our life. And
Yeah,
we did Spartan races. The reason I say that is like, when someone hangs a phone up on you, your mindset's different than the person who's, for me, it was like, well, I'm not ruining my day. Like, dude, they hung up the phone. Matter of fact, I'll call them back. But what could you talk about that?
yeah,
Because I think agents go through that. They're like, well, they're not, it's not about them. They're just, I mean, we don't know if they stepped on the cat's tail. They're mad. You call the same person back the next day and then they're nice to you. Could you talk about
yeah,
that piece?
yeah. That's probably a difficult thing people that aren't coming from sales have to get used to, right? Is not taking it personally. Now, if you're coming from sales, I mean, you should already know this. Some
Yeah.
some people don't, but then they probably shouldn't be in sales. If
Mm-hmm.
you're going to take it personally, then you're in the wrong industry. You know, because they're not rejecting you as a person. Like, you might hang out with them on a Friday or a Saturday, or you might go to their kid's birthday party or whatever. You might be friends with them on the side, but when they reject. When you get rejection, it's not for you; it's for the products that you're selling. You know, and so that's and you have to take that, whether it's on the phone setting the appointment, or calling the lead. I mean, any of these things, they're not rejecting you personally. They're rejecting what you're selling. What you're selling.
Yeah. Well, so what are some things? So you now I like to print my leads off, have them on. When did you do that? Did you print them off and write notes on them? How did you do that?
I did at the beginning, but that was before we partnered up with Phone Burner and stuff.
Okay.
So, since we partnered up with Phone Burner, I mean, I stopped printing leads off, and I
Tell
stopped.
tell people what that is that don't know what it is.
So Phone Burner, it's just an automated dialer. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, like, let's just say if you've got 100 leads, you upload them into the Phone Burner system. You call into the Phone Burner system, and then Phone Burner actually dials all those leads.
Mm-hmm.
I like to kind of an example that the people can relate to is if they've seen The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith,
Yeah.
is when back in the 80s when he would other people were going to the water cooler and hanging up the phone and then picking the phone back up and dialing the phone numbers to be able to call these leads and stuff. It's kind of that same deal where he wouldn't hang up the phone. He would push the set, and then he would just start dialing again. So that's kind of what I equate it to with using phone burner. You're able to call, 2 to 3 times more leads per hour by using this automated system, but then also you're able to upload pre-recorded voicemails, text messages, emails, and all this type of stuff, where there's literally a button that you can push that sends out, a pre-recorded voicemail, text message, and email all with the push of a button. So yeah,
Right.
it's pretty incredible. So
And because of time, we don't have a ton of time here, but these last couple of minutes, I want to ask you this. So you transition, you're doing virtual. But
uh-huh.
I'd like you to just talk about briefly the challenges behind that and how, again, just we want people to understand that it's a big transition, and just talk about that for a couple minutes and, things that they should do or not do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I didn't go virtual because there's a distinction between virtual and tele, right? So virtual is more like Zoom sales. I never went that end. I do 100% telesales. So no Zoom. I just feel like it adds an additional,
Stuff.
complicated. Yeah, especially if you're talking to folks that are 70 and 80 years old. They can barely figure out how to do an email signature. So for them to try to figure out how to do a Zoom, could be, breaking land speed records, for them and stuff. But I guess I was a little bit naive, even though I had heard, us salespeople can be a little bit maybe overconfident and cocky. I'd heard from plenty of people that had transitioned to telesales or virtual sales, the difficulties of it. I just didn't think, Hall of Fame guy here personally would have any struggles or any difficulties with it, and I was dead wrong. So I went straight from like I had my last in-person appointment on a Saturday, and then that next Monday I went 100% telesales. So I'd recommend not doing that. So
Hybrid, yeah.
because I struggled with it so much for the first 2 months, I'd say. And so I would recommend a hybrid approach if you're transitioning from in-person to telesales or virtual sales, or even if you just want to do a hybrid approach. What I would recommend, if you're running 4 days, dedicate 2 days, 2 full days to in the field, and then dedicate 2 full days to virtual or telesales. Don't try to mix in your virtual and telesales appointments with your in-home appointments. It'll totally jack up your schedule, and it's just a different process of how you have to go about it and stuff as well. So, but the struggles that I had, so I was setting 8+ appointments when I was in the field, and I'd probably have about 75% show. And the people that I sat down with and presented to, I was probably closing about 75. You're going to have about 50% no show compared to 25% no show, and 50%'s generous when you start. Upwards of 75% no show at the beginning until you kind of figure it out. But then also my close ratio, instead of it being 75%, went to 25%. Just because it's so much easier to tell no over the phone than it is in person, just because you don't have that connection.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, I would have, 1 week where I protected 10 families. And then the next week I protected 2 families. And then the next week I protected 17 families. And then the next week I protected 7 families. And then the next week I protected 12 families. It was just such a roller coaster. Whereas when I was in the field, I was protecting consistently 10 to 20 families a week consistently.
Are you transitioning back in doing any inset? Are you going to do both, or have you thought about that at all?
No, I'm stubborn, man. I'm sticking with the telesales, and just within these past probably 2 weeks, maybe 2 to 4 weeks, I'm starting to see consistency where I'm starting to do starting to protect about 10 to 12 families a week. I'm still not up to my 10 to 20 families a week like I was, but I've also not doubled, but close to doubled my investment into leads. And then I've started to put, instead of 8+, when I was in the field, I'm doing 16 to 20+ appointments, just because you got to be used to, 50% or more. It's going to be a no-show and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you for being on, and I'm excited to see how that grows and you get better. And he's a determined guy, so I know he's going to figure it out. But what's also nice to know is if ever needs to make a decision to go back in the field, he can do it. That's what I love. Yeah. And but it does allow him to and I don't know, we're going to wrap this up, but it does take more discipline in my mind to set where you're setting
For sure.
with all the distractions, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
be careful about that. But hey, listen, if you have questions, reach out to Todd about it, right?
Yeah.
There's, Jerry Fino's tells us we got people doing it that are being successful. But he's going to do good. Here's the thing. He's going to do good no matter what he does, right? But a new person is just very, just understand, reach out, learn. Don't, like he said, do the hybrid. So anyway, Todd, thanks for being on. Listen, how do they get a hold of you? They want to work with you. I know we did this with Melvin, and he reached out, and so we just never know who's watching.
Yeah.
But how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can reach me on my cell phone at 615-431-9554. That's 615-431-9554. I'll give you my personal email just because it's easier. It's Todd Hausberger at Gmail. So that's TODDHAUSBERGER at Gmail. And then, of course, I'm on, Facebook and Instagram and
Phoenix
TikTok,
Financial. Yeah.
LinkedIn, and either under Todd Hausberger or Fenix Financial, and it's Fenix FENIX. That's how it's spelled. So,
well, we love you, man. We appreciate you and your beautiful family and all that. You're working, but again, Hall of Fame producer, you're gonna do it again. Growing a big agency, helping people, can help you, teach you, and that's what we're about. We're just a family trying to help people. So if you're interested in the business, reach out. Never been in life insurance, reach out. We can help you. If you are in the business, have questions, reach out. Todd, Velocity, whatever. We appreciate you guys being on Warriors podcast, and hope this makes a difference. And we appreciate it. And FFL Velocity, we just want to help people. So we appreciate you so much. Thanks, Todd, for being on.
hey, thank you, buddy.